So in that clip from The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, Edmund and Lucy have been to the magical world. They come back. Edmund starts saying, no, we were just pretending. It's not real. Why did the professor suggest that they should believe Lucy rather than Edmund? Because he's been there as well. Yes, he's been there in the past. That's the implication. He also asks that important question: who is the more likely to be truthful of the two? Lucy is normally honest. Edmund can be less than honest. So who are we more likely to believe? If somebody lies to you, how do you feel in the future when they tell you something? Will you automatically trust them? Or maybe not. There's a verse in the Bible that says an honest witness tells lies, but an honest witness tells the truth, but a false witness tells lies. And it sounds obvious, doesn't it? It's just a statement of fact. But actually it's saying something a little bit deeper. It's saying somebody has proven themselves to be an honest witness, you can kind of trust them in the future to tell the truth. If somebody has proven themselves over and over again to be a liar, well, you won't trust them. It's talking about people's character, their nature. When you know that somebody is honest, you can trust them. When you know that someone is in the habit of lying, you tend to assume they can't be trusted. Like Lucy and Edmund, the professor simply asks, who is the most trustworthy? Well, Lucy is, so why don't you just trust her? As we've got into December and we've started thinking about Christmas in various different groups, I've done a lesson with Coddles, a lesson with Oddie, the Bible study on Wednesday, and there's kind of a theme developing as we get towards Christmas. I begin to realise, without deliberately doing so, that there seems to be a theme developing in the things that we're looking at, and it's happening here. And it's the theme of prophecies about Jesus being proven true, therefore enabling us to trust the rest of the prophecy about Jesus. The first part of the prophecy of Jesus has been proved true, so we can trust the rest of it. And we see that again in Isaiah chapter 7 and 9. In chapter 7, verse 14, it says, "The Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel." That's kind of the opening statement of this long prophecy that goes on to speak about Jesus, the person, and the work that he was going to do. And then as we open Matthew's Gospel, the first words written about Jesus, the man Jesus on earth, we learn in there that Mary was an unmarried virgin, but she was pregnant with a baby by the Holy Spirit. The baby was going to be known as Emmanuel, which means God with us. The prophecy of Isaiah chapter 7 verse 14 was fulfilled in the miraculous birth of Jesus Christ. Deuteronomy 18, God says to the people, you may say to yourselves, how can we know when a message has not been spoken by the Lord? If what a prophet proclaims in the name of the Lord does not take place or come true, that is a message the Lord has not spoken. Here is a message where the first part of it does come true, so we know that the rest of the message is spoken by God, and we can have faith that it will come true. The prophet and the prophecy has shown itself to be truthful, we can trust it for the future. And the reason we read from Isaiah 9 is that prophecy continues. And it tells us some really important things this morning about the person and work of Jesus Christ. Chapter 9, verse 1. He will honour Galilee of the Gentiles. Jesus chose to live in Capernaum, right on the banks of Galilee. The prophecy, another part of the prophecy has been proven to be true. We're really building confidence now in the rest of this prophecy. Just as the professor had faith in Lucy because she told the truth. Just as the proverb says an honest witness tells the truth. Just as Deuteronomy tells us we can trust things because God has prophesied them. So we can trust the rest of this prophecy. And now we've established that. Now we're certain, yes, this prophecy is good. Yes, this prophecy can be trusted. We read in verse 6, for to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Amazing words, amazing claims about Jesus Christ. And if these claims just stood on their own, we might wonder if we can trust them. But the prophecy has been proven to be true, so we know we can trust these words. And it's those four incredible things spoken of about Jesus that we're going to look at and take encouragement from this morning. He will be called Wonderful Counselor. Translators disagree a little bit on whether that's one thing, Wonderful Counselor, or whether it's two things. He will be called Wonderful and he will be called Counselor. Either way, it still makes Jesus a wonderful Counselor. How many of us here this morning really need some wise guidance right now? And I think every hand should probably. We all need some wise guidance. As I look around, those of us who are gathered here this morning, I see people with so many needs and so much in need of that wise guidance. People desperately struggling to look after elderly relatives and wondering how best to do that. People trying to balance family, work and church responsibilities. People with financial issues. People with hard choices to make about their own or their family's futures. People just starting new phases in their life and in need of direction. We need a wise counsellor, each one of us, every day. The word needy can often be used as a bit of a put down, a bit of a criticism of somebody. But if I use the word in a realistic and positive sense this morning, we are genuinely a needy group of people. The church is in need of that wise guidance from Jesus Christ. But whatever our need, however needy we are, we have a counsellor who is more wonderful than the need is great. We have a counsellor who is there to guide and lead and show us the way through whatever problems we're facing this morning. I don't think it's any great secret that Mandy and I are facing some real difficulties at the moment. This last week, now I've been looking at the things that are all there to do with Christmas coming, services to prepare, a funeral to arrange, all sorts of pastoral issues within the church. Work phoning me constantly, wanting me to do more hours, all sorts of things going on. Mandy, just in the last couple of weeks, has lost 2 incredibly dear friends. Her mum is not coping at home, who needs lots of care but is refusing to accept any help. And on top of that, obviously, she's damaged her leg and had to put up with me whinging about my problems at home. The other morning, we'd both gone up, and I looked at the problems I was facing, and I thought, listen, I've got so much to do. I need to get on. I can pray later, if there's time. Mandy said, I've got all these things to do, the phone won't stop ringing, but I'm not going to face any of them until I've spent some time with God. It's no wonder that Mandy is coping better than I am with the problems. Mandy is turning to the wonderful Counselor. Whatever problems or difficulties we face, they are not as big as the God who holds our hand and will guide us through them. Jesus is the wonderful Counselor, the perfect Counselor. He is there for us any time, any day. So one of the things that counsellors are taught is to draw a line under your counselling with somebody. If you go to them for a 1-hour session, at the end of that 1-hour session, the counsellor will make it clear, session is over, you need to go home. Please don't call me again until our next session. Jesus is the counsellor who is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who never tells us to go and manage on our own. How do we know for certain that Jesus is the wonderful Counselor? Well, this prophecy tells us he is. And this prophecy has proven itself to be true because it said at the beginning that Jesus was going to be born to a virgin. We can trust the prophecy. We can trust that Jesus really is the wonderful Counselor that each one of us needs to get through every day of our lives right now. And he is the mighty God. The theologians all agree that these words written here in Isaiah chapter 9 are talking about Jesus Christ. And it says here, he is the mighty God. How can anybody doubt that Jesus truly is God? The words here are proven trustworthy. The words say that he is God, and he is the mighty God. And he is with us, whatever we face. Not only is he the wonderful Counselor, able to offer us the wisest possible guidance, but he is almighty and is able to deal with any obstacles that might be in our way. I've lost count of the number of times that I've been really concerned about a situation. Prayed and prayed and prayed about it, taken it to God, and the situation has just disappeared. And many times I've had to go and speak to somebody, and I've been thinking I've got something really, really difficult that I need to talk to them about. They're going to react badly. They're not going to be happy at what I have to say to them. And I've turned up to see that, I've prayed about it beforehand. God, please help me to say these words well. Help me to put this in a way that isn't going to cause offence. Help me to get this across. I've turned up to see them, and they've said, now you're here, there's something I need to talk to you about. And they've told me exactly what I was going to come and tell them. Jesus is the mighty God, the God able to change any situation that we might face. How much more could he do for us even than he does if we truly trusted him, if we gave our problems to him and said, I trust you to be mighty God, I trust you to be able to take care of everything. Here it is, God. Here it is, Jesus. Here is the problem. Will you take care of this? We can trust him to be that mighty God. These words of prophecy that have proven themselves true tell us he is mighty God. He is the everlasting Father. Here's a wonderful little confirmation of part of the whole doctrine of the Trinity. Jesus and the Father truly are one. Speaking of Jesus, it says you are the everlasting Father. And that word everlasting is so important. We all have friends, colleagues, maybe even relatives who have let us down. People who we absolutely trusted, but who proved to be far less reliable. And we got hurt when they proved not to be everything that we thought they were. And because of that, because we know that every friendship has a limit, we find it really difficult to completely put our faith and trust in anybody, even in Jesus Christ. But here is the truth given to us in these verses that we know aright. Jesus is the everlasting Father. He will not let you down. He will not let you go ever. He's not just the everlasting Father to you for a moment. He's not just the greatest one you could have in your life for a while it makes him feel good. It's not just while he can be bothered, while he can fit you in amongst his incredibly busy schedule. He is with you for life and beyond. What's the famous catchphrase of Buzz Lightyear? Do we know? Does anybody on this table know? What is the famous catchphrase of Buzz Lightyear? If not, somebody over here is ready. They're ready to jump in. Go on, what is it? Sorry?
It's to infinity and beyond, isn't it? Something like that.
That's the one. We just needed a little bit of help. You knew that, didn't you? To infinity and beyond. And of course we know it's not, you can't go to infinity. If you could go beyond, then that wasn't infinity, but never mind. Unless you're Jesus. Jesus isn't just here for life. He's not just here until the end of the world. Jesus is with us even beyond that, into the next life that will never end. He is with us to infinity and beyond. I know that as Christians we still sin. We get things wrong. And there's those moments, I think, that all of us have where we think, is God going to reject me? Have I done too much wrong now? Now that I know the truth, now that I know Jesus, I've still got things wrong. Is he going to reject me for those things that I did? Is he going to reject me for those things I didn't do that I know I should have done? Have I pushed the limit of his forgiveness as far as it can go? We kind of imagine God to be like a human who has his limits of forgiveness, who has his limits of love. We imagine God to be like us. Eventually we will get fed up of somebody when they keep on doing the same thing and the same thing and the same thing over and over and over again. We assume God is like that. But Jesus is the everlasting Father. His love for us will never end. He will not leave us. Not when we sin. Not when we forget about him. He won't leave us when we die. He is with us forever. To infinity and beyond. And he is the Prince of Peace. I said earlier that we are needy people. In the last 2 years we've had 3 lockdowns. COVID restrictions have come and gone and changed so rapidly that we can barely keep up with them at times. People have lost their jobs. Thousands have died. Some here within our own church family have lost loved ones. Restrictions are on the horizon again, threatening to dictate what we may or may not be able to do over Christmas. Away from COVID, new laws are coming in that will make doing the job of the church and helping people to live as God would want them to, making that harder. Laws that could criminalise some of the very things that we do as a church. And it's frightening. And there's a lot of stress and a lot of worry and a lot of fear around amongst all of us. We need peace. Well, thank God for Jesus, because Jesus is the Prince of Peace. The things we've already said about him, that he's the wonderful Counselor, that he's mighty God, those things in themselves should help to give us peace. Knowing that we can take any and every problem to him, that he will guide us, that he's capable of dealing with anything that's going on in the world, that should give us a sense of peace. The knowledge that he will never leave us, that he's with us to infinity and beyond, should give us peace. Help us to discard the worries that threaten to destroy our peace. But he brings us peace in another way. He brings us peace by living in us by his Holy Spirit, able to quieten our hearts, able to remind us of all that God has done for us, able to help us have more faith in Jesus Christ. And he brings us peace in the way that we looked at from the reading in Ephesians right at the beginning of the service. Because when Jesus came, he came to be Emmanuel. He came to be God with us. He came to reconcile sinful, broken humans to the holy and righteous God. The biggest problem that any of us have, the biggest problem that any of us have ever faced is our sin. Our sin that stood as this great barrier between us and God. But Jesus came to earth to be Emmanuel, to be God with us. He came to earth to be the one who would go to the cross to give his life as an atonement for our sin. And by doing so, he brought us peace with God. He himself is our peace, who has made the two one and destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility. In his body, in his human and yet God body, he made peace between God and all of those who would put their faith in him. So this Christmas time, Christmas can be so stressful at times. But this Christmas, can I really encourage you to accept and embrace the peace that Jesus came to give you. Let him be your counselor. Turn to him in every situation that you face. Remember that he is your mighty God. He is bigger than any situation you face. Remember that he's your everlasting Father. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And remember that he is the Prince of Peace. He longs to take your worries, your fears and your concerns away. Just as he dealt with your sin and made you right with God, so he wants to deal with everything that threatens your peace. Turn to him this Christmas. Let him be your wonderful counselor, your mighty God, your everlasting Father, and your Prince of Peace.